Hello and welcome to Mr. Manny History Teacher's latest video on how to successfully answer the AQA Tudor paper extract and essay questions. First of all, we're going to be looking into how to successfully answer the 25-mark essay question, and we're going to be talking about some of the top tips and some of the structural techniques that you should look to use to ensure you get the highest possible mark for your 25-mark question. And then we'll be looking into the structure and some top tips on how to answer the 30-mark extract question. So let's get started first of all with that 25-mark essay question. So here is an example essay question. Henry VII successfully consolidated his power. Assess the validity of this view, and it's worth 25 marks. So how should you look to structure your answer? Well, first of all, you need to write your introduction. It shouldn't be too long, so I wouldn't recommend writing any more than about 4 or 5 sentences for your introduction, but you need to get across what it is you're going to be arguing throughout your essay answer. Then you need to get into the main body of your argument, which should include points of argument or factors, and you need to think of 3 factors or topics that you're going to write about. Now, I've mentioned you can write topically. For example, for this type of question, focusing on Henry Tudor's successful, whether or not Henry Tudor successfully consolidated his power, you might want to refer to Henry VII's foreign policy or his relationship with the nobility and his efforts to secure the Tudor dynasty. However, you may, if you want to, write thematically or chronologically. So you might break down the periods of his rule in 3 different areas in your answer. So 1485 until 1490, then 1490 until 1500, or 1500 until 1509. Now, it's important that you go into your assessment knowing the structure that you want to use. So either writing topically or writing chronologically. Make it clear in your answer which you're doing. It shouldn't be a mixture of the two. Now, when you're writing your main body of your answer, when you're writing topically, you need to include examples of success and failure. However, your paragraphs should be weighted to either writing overall that Henry Tudor, for example, successfully consolidated his power and give 2 reasons or factors behind that and 1 failure, or if you actually think overall that Henry VII, for example, didn't successfully consolidate his power, so actually he failed overall to consolidate his position on the throne, then you would write a paragraph on him failing, then a paragraph on a success, and then a paragraph on him failing again. So, like I said, it's up to you how you structure your answer, but you need to make sure that there's a clear structure and a clear judgment throughout your answer. We'll talk about that and those factors in our top tips in a second. Once you've written the main body of your answer, you then need to write a conclusion. And your conclusion shouldn't be dissimilar. In fact, it should be pretty much exactly the same as what you've written in your introduction. So whatever it is that you've argued overall, whether Henry VII was successful in consolidating his power or actually he didn't successfully consolidate his power, and an overall justification as to why you've come to that conclusion. So the top tips to gain the highest possible marks for this type of question. You need to ensure that you show a really good understanding of the question. Focus on exactly what it is the question's asking you. So the key word or words in this question, for example, are, well, first of all, the monarch, Henry Tudor or Henry VII, and we're focusing on his consolidation. So any topics or factors that are linked to Henry Tudor's consolidation of power, you should look to write 3, as it says over here in our structure summary, 3 paragraphs on Henry Tudor's consolidation of power. You need to also make sure that you use concise and relevant knowledge. And don't forget, the Tudor paper 1C is a breadth paper, not the depth paper. So you need to ensure that in your answer you cover the period in question. So you should be looking to cover the methods that Henry VII used to consolidate his power from 1485 until 1509. If you just write about the very start of his reign, that's going to severely limit the marks that you earn for this type of question. Make sure there's a degree of balance in your response, and like I mentioned already, you want to show an awareness at least of arguments for and against the statement in the question. As I mentioned already, there needs to be a clear structure. It shouldn't be jumping between a topical structure or a chronological structure. It should be clear to the marker exactly which approach you're taking. And finally, a clear judgment which should appear throughout your answer. The marker shouldn't just get to your conclusion and be surprised at what your overall judgment is. There needs to be a really succinct and clear judgment throughout the whole of your essay. Let's now have a look at the extract question. So for the extract question, there's no definitive way of structuring your answer, but there are some recommended pieces of advice I can give you in order to gain the highest possible mark. And we'll talk about the mark scheme in a second. So for each extract, you need to be able to identify the main argument. However, be aware this may not just be, the main argument for each extract might not just be in the first sentence. So make sure you take some time to analyse each of the extracts. Now I know you've got only an hour for this paper, for the extract question within the paper. However, it's important that you grasp the overall argument and also any sub-arguments or secondary arguments in each of the extracts. Don't rush this. Okay, make sure you grasp what the main argument is in each extract and any secondary arguments. Make sure you give yourself time to cover all three extracts in your answer. And one of my top tips is ensuring as well, which we'll talk about in a second, that you spend no longer than 20 minutes analysing each extract. Because there's 3 extracts, you have an hour for this question, so 20 minutes for each extract. There's no need to make comparisons between the extracts. So you shouldn't be stating that extract A is more convincing than extract B, for example. That won't gain you any marks. You want to analyse each extract individually. There's also no need for an overall conclusion or introduction to your answer. Now, you might want to give a brief introduction when you're writing about each extract in terms of summarising what the main line of argument is in each extract. And you might want to allude to any sub-arguments as well at this stage. However, that's not a necessity. So the top tips for answering this type of question. You need to make sure that when you're using your own contextual knowledge to address the convincingness of the extract, or maybe some reasons why the extract is less convincing, you also link it back to the question. So you're linking the convincingness or reasons why an extract might be less convincing in relation to the topic in question. Spend no more, like I mentioned already, than 20 minutes analysing each extract. And really importantly, to gain this top level 5 mark for the extract question, between 25 and 30 marks, you need to make sure that you use really nuanced language throughout. For example, don't just say that extract B is not convincing or extract C is completely convincing. You want to use more nuanced, more subtle language in your answer. So you might say, for example, this extract is convincing, but to a partial or a certain extent, or to a limited extent. And then give reasons using your own knowledge to explain and justify why each extract is convincing to a certain extent, however convincing it is you've decided that extract to be, and then link it back to the focus of the question as well. Now, just going to very quickly refer to the mark scheme for levels 4 and 5. Now you can see what's needed for levels 1, 2 and 3, but in order to aim for these top marks between 25 and 30, or 19 to 24 if you're aiming for a level 4, this is what you need to be able to do. So in order to achieve a level 5 answer, your answer should be well supported and give a well-supported analysis and evaluation of how convincing each extract is, how convincing each interpretation is. You need to show an excellent understanding of the historical context. So really concise own contextual knowledge needs to be used to demonstrate an excellent understanding of the historical context and a very good identification and understanding of the interpretations. Don't just quote sentences or sections or segments of each extract. That won't gain you a level 5 mark. You need to be really succinct and identify the sub-arguments and the main argument in each extract. And then develop your justifications on how convincing the extract is based on what the main and sub-arguments are in each extract. If you're looking for a level 4, then you need to show, as opposed to a very good understanding of the historical context, a good understanding of the historical context, a good identification and understanding of the interpretations, and a good analysis of how convincing each interpretation is, although there may be occasional lacks of depth and range. And it's predominantly going to be range because as this is the breadth paper, then you need to really focus on showing a wide range of knowledge from the period in question. Don't just focus on the period in the question. Don't just focus on one particular area. Make sure you focus across the entire time period in the question. I hope this video helps. Click on the like button, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel, Mr. Manley History Teacher, make sure you click on the subscribe button as well.